Guys, so now we're going to talk about the First Time Homebuyer Incentive Program, which kind of rolled out on September 2nd. It's a federal government program available to all first-time homebuyers, available to every lender and all insurance companies within Canada. To qualify as a first-time homebuyer's incentive, you either need to be a Canadian citizen, you could be here as a permanent resident, or even on a work permit. But you need to be legally authorized to be able to work in Canada to qualify for the incentive, which is very, very important. So now I'm going to kind of go in to see who qualifies for the incentive. The people who qualify for the incentive are going to be first-time homebuyers. First-time homebuyers are people who have never owned a home before, people who've owned a home and have sold their home, and for the last 4 years have not owned a home. They're considered to be first-time homebuyers. Someone who's currently owns a home right now but is going through a separation or a divorce, they automatically qualify as a first-time homebuyer. And the very important thing to remember about this incentive is that not everyone on the application needs to be a first-time homebuyer to qualify. So let's say, for example, your spouse has a home, you don't currently have a home right now, you guys want to keep that home, and the new purchase or the new home that you want to purchase, you're going to be on that application, you automatically qualify as a first-time homebuyer, and so does your spouse. So once again, the government is trying to make this as easy as possible, to make it accessible to as many people as possible, to make use of this great program. So the incentive rolled on September 2nd. The way it works is a shared equity mortgage. So what the federal government does is that take an equity share in your purchase of your home. Now, the way the equity share works is that if you're buying a brand new home with a builder, for example, like Brookfield, you have the options of taking either a 5% shared equity mortgage or a 10% up to a maximum of 10% shared equity mortgage. So let's say you come up with a 5% down payment, which still is the same case, that hasn't changed. And the government will either give you 5 or 10%, depending on what you choose, as the other portion. So what that does, it reduces your mortgage by that amount. So for example, let's say, we'll use Anita for example. So let's say Anita is buying a house. She's looking at a $400,000 house. So she comes up with 5%, which is $20,000. She decides to take a 10% shared equity mortgage from the federal government, which is $40,000. So her total down payment now is $60,000. So what happens now is her mortgage is going to go from $400,000 minus $60,000 to $340,000. Now this is why this is so important, because this $340,000 is what the insurance is going to be based on, which is your default insurance. So instead of, she only came up with 5, so technically, traditionally, she would have to pay a 4% insurance premium. But with this new shared incentive or shared equity mortgage, her down payment has increased from 5 to 15%. So now her insurance premium drops from 4% all the way down to 2.8%. So considerable savings upfront. Also, now her qualifying mortgage amount is going to be $340,000. So it's not going to be the $400,000 minus the 5% down payment. So now she has to qualify on less as well, because now there's also a 10% shared equity portion into that qualification. So now it helps her to qualify. She saves money every month, upwards of $200 or more. And she saves money on her insurance premium up front, and it helps her qualify. So overall, it's a great program. The way it works is just amazing. So we're going to talk about when it rolls out. So it rolls out on September 2nd. But the mortgage has to be funded, or the house needs to be like moved into or take possession no sooner than November 1st. And the reason why they do that is they want to be able to kind of work out all the kinks, so there's no issues with funding, because it does take a lot of moving parts for this to kind of work flawlessly. So that time is very, very important. You cannot move into the house or take possession of your home prior to November 1st under this program. So that has to be very clear. Second thing we want to kind of discuss is there is an income requirement for this as well. So the way to best kind of figure out to see if you qualify for the incentive is, 1, you have to be a first-time homebuyer. We've already discussed that. 2, you have to be legally authorized to work in Canada. 3, you cannot have a maximum annual household income of more than $120,000. So that includes you, your partner, your co-signer. Combined income of anyone on that application cannot be more than $120,000. So maybe be kind of careful to see who you want to add onto this application with you. If you're going over that 120 threshold, you automatically disqualify for this program. Another way to see if you qualify for the incentive is a maximum mortgage amount cannot be more than $480,000. So once again, so $120,000 income times that by 4, mortgage plus incentive cannot be more than $480,000. So there is an income requirement. Very important to kind of realize income requirement for this incentive for this program. So the mortgage plus incentive cannot be more than 4 times the income. So we're going to go and do an example now to kind of see, because this could get a little hairy. So we're going to do an example real quick, and then we're going to go off that. So let's go back to Anita's example. So let's say Anita has a qualifying income of $83,125. And I know that's very, very specific, but it's specific for a reason, because we want to use it as an example, want to make sure our numbers add up, right? So I'm no mathematician, but I want to make it as easy as possible. And she has $17,500 for her down payment. So how does the mortgage incentive calculation work for her? So what we do, we take her income of $83,125. We times that by 4, which is a maximum she's allowed to do. That comes up with, and then plus her down payment. So let's say we add her down payment of $17,500. That qualifies her for a maximum purchase price under this incentive of $350,000. Now for her, let's say if she wants to get a bigger house, you might have to increase her down payment, or she might have to either add a cosigner to increase the income portion. But this incentive kind of limits you on that side. That's just one thing you have to be very cognizant, kind of very important about to kind of wrap your head around, is that it's really based on income. And it's not designed for you to go to your maximum threshold of purchase price. That's not what the government's looking for. The government's looking for you to get this incentive so you can actually save money on your payments, not qualify for something that you couldn't qualify for before, right? So very, very important. So that is very, very, like I said, it's a very important part of this incentive. So mortgage plus incentive cannot be more than 4 times the income. So based on the example that we gave, that brings Anita down to a maximum of $350,000 purchase price. Now, how is it repayable? So since it's a shared equity mortgage, there's a no interest, no payment portion to this. So while you have it, you don't really have to worry about it. But the way you pay it back is at the time when you sell your home, or a maximum of 25 years if you don't sell your home, it becomes due. And it's going to be whatever is the value of your home at that time. So for example, let's say Anita bought that home for $350,000. In 5 years, she decides to sell it, and the house is now worth $400,000. She's taking a 10% incentive from the government. Then she has to pay back $40,000, even though she's gotten $35,000. Let's say in 25 years, that $250,000 house is now worth upwards of $650,000. So in 25 years, she will have to pay 10% of $650,000. Now this incentive is actually payable back at any time. So it can be payable at the time of sale. It can be payable at 25 years. It can be payable the next day. If Anita wins the lottery, she wants to pay it off, she can pay it off the next day. But whenever she wants to pay it back, it's going to be based on the value at that time. So an appraisal will have to be done. So very, very important to think about. Other thing is it's a very limited time program. So it is earmarked over 3 years by the federal government, and a total budget of $1.25 billion. So, and that's for all of Canada, right? So $1.25 billion earmarked over 3 years. Whichever ends first is when the program ends. So overall, a great program for first-time home buyers. It does help them. And then a lot of clients or a lot of people ask me and say, why is it such a good program? And I explain to them, as a first-time home buyer, you have debts, right? You might have just graduated from school, you have student loans, you might have a car loan, you might have some other financial obligation. This incentive kind of brings you within that threshold of owning your home while still being able to maintain a certain lifestyle, so you're not what we call mortgage poor in the industry, but also without maybe having to sell your car. You need to get to work, you need to kind of use it to move around, so we're not asking you to sell a car, or maybe without paying off your student loan. So it helps you get into a home sooner without paying off debts and stuff like that. But overall, I feel like it's a great incentive. It's definitely a tool. Is it something that you need to take? I don't think so, but it's available to you.